Jeremy, I wanted to get your take on this, because the one-way ratchet of violence that starts with there's no start to it, but let's start with the U.S. Global war on terror, and then ratcheting further with Israel's expanding assault around the region, and decapitation of civilians and scientists around the region. I think there's a relationship between that and the U.S. willingness to now target ships, just boats floating in the Caribbean. So a couple of weeks ago, the Trump administration attacked what it said was a drug boat, provided no evidence, and apparently 11 people burned to death, on this boat, completely 100% in violation of all international law and all marine law. Like, if there's just no way in the civilized world that you can just bomb a ship that is posing no threat to anybody. There are rules around what a Coast Guard would be, any country's Coast Guard would be allowed to do if they felt like the boat was trafficking drugs into their territory. They're entitled to try to stop it, try to issue warnings. But blowing it out of the water is simply not remotely within what is allowed in civilization. They now have done it again yesterday. Killed, according to the United States, according to Trump, killed 3 people, and they claim that it's another drug boat. Pragmatically, it's ludicrous. Like, the idea that you would send out a kind of carrier fleet or a submarine fleet, which costs many millions of dollars a day to operate, and then you're going to eradicate the drug trafficking by actually just attacking the little dinghies that are carrying it is absurd to begin with. But can you talk a little bit about where the U.S. gets this notion that it is entitled to just go around the world and execute, whoever it feels like?
This is what we called, during some reporting we did years ago, the assassination complex. And I don't know how many people are familiar with this, but since the presidency of Gerald Ford, there has been an executive order on the books in the United States. It's never been the issue of whether the United States can assassinate people has never actually been legislated by Congress. And the reason why Congress has never wanted to take on this issue is they don't want to have that debate over what constitutes assassination. But since Gerald Ford, there has been on the books an executive order that prohibits the United States from, or any of its agents from, engaging in assassination. Jimmy Carter amended it at one point to say, to include political assassination, and also to include people operating on behalf of the United States. And so
was that meant to tighten it or loosen it?
It was meant to make it so that it was a much wider application. Carter was deeply concerned. Remember, Jimmy Carter became president coming out of the era of not only political assassination and coups abroad, when it was really out in the open, but also inside of the United States. You had the assassination of Martin Luther King, of Bobby Kennedy, of John F. Kennedy. You had congressional commissions. So it was a big deal. And the concerns were not just external, but internally as well. This notion that Carter wanted it clear that the United States is forbidden by its own values from assassinating. Now, of course, all presidents have engaged in assassination, but it was really Obama, the constitutional law scholar, that embraced the notion that we can circumvent all of these concerns by kind of rebranding it. And Obama leaned very heavily into using special operations forces, the CIA, drone strikes, and they engaged in a form of systematized pre-crime. And much of it was actually waged in the hinterlands of Pakistan and Yemen in the form of drone strikes, to the point that Obama greenlit a strike against an American citizen, Anwar al-Awlaki, who was essentially a YouTube personality that was advocating for jihad against the United States. And there was a lot of debate within the Obama, Office of Legal Counsel and within the broader Justice Department about whether or not the president could assassinate an American citizen who had not knowingly committed personally an act of terrorism. They finally were able to secure some form of a designation of al-Awlaki as a especially globally designated terrorist. But this was very controversial in some legal circles in the United States because of fear that the precedent that it would set. And this was in the case of an American citizen. The US would have meetings under Obama, they called them Terror Tuesdays, where they would literally discuss a deck of cards that would be put out on a monitor, and they would discuss who was going to live and die in Yemen or Pakistan or Afghanistan on any given day. In fact, when Obama was first running for president, he made a comment that got attacked by a lot of people when he said that if Osama bin Laden's location was confirmed inside of Pakistan, that Obama would send American military forces in to get Osama bin Laden. And even John McCain was criticizing him at the time. And then, of course, in 2011, Obama did authorize a covert operation involving SEAL Team 6 and the CIA's Special Operations Division to go in and assassinate Osama bin Laden. They said, it was a kill or capture operation, but it was pretty clear that they went in there to assassinate him. So, while everyone is clutching their pearls right now at what Trump has done in Venezuela, and I think it should be of grave concern, this is pre-crime. Whether or not they were involved with narcotics trafficking is irrelevant to basic international law. You cannot just assassinate someone without due process. These were not people that anyone has said were firing weapons on American vessels. This is not anyone that was launching rockets at the United States. Let's take their story at its surface. These are drug smugglers. Is the new policy of the United States that we're going to put Duterte of the Philippines, his ideas on steroids, and say this is now the policy of the US, that we're going to preemptively murder anyone involved with drug trafficking? If so, this is going to have far-reaching effects. But let's not pretend that Trump's people just invented this right now. There was a constitutional law scholar who remains the most popular Democratic politician in the country that was able to normalize and groom the population, particularly liberals, to believe that these are acceptable types of actions. And so if you weren't saying something when Obama was helping to normalize this practice, but now are filled with rage and concern about Trump, then you actually don't care about the policy. You care about the president implementing it and the bombastic nature of Trump's bragging about murdering people in a pre-crime when we don't even know if they actually were narco traffickers. And even if they were, it's irrelevant. You don't assassinate people in that way and say, well, we're the bearers of democracy in the world.
Yeah, and Trump is now even saying that if you're only a fisherman, you ought to be worried. I want to actually just play a little bit of this, just to show people how completely insane this is. So here's Trump.
To be honest, if I were a fisherman, I wouldn't want to go fishing. Just a nice, let's take a little trip, because I'd say, man, maybe they think I have drugs downstairs. I don't want that. I think the fishing business probably been hurt, but.
You see, Trump is sick. Trump is sick in the head with how he talks about this stuff, that it's so outrageous, how he speaks about it. But I'm less interested in his rhetoric than saying, like, where does this come from? It doesn't come from Donald Trump. This is the manifestation in the most grotesque, ugly, outwardly focused way of US policy. He's just doing it in a way that now all of a sudden people are like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But this isn't really new.
Right. Imagine Obama, if Obama had Trump's kind of crass personality.
Yeah.
He very easily could have said while he was president, gee, yeah, I guess I wouldn't go to a wedding if I were in Yemen, because, I might think to myself, well, a lot of people gathered, good chance I'm going to be struck here. And Obama would find that, offensive that somebody would be so crass as to say that, but doing it and creating the exact same fear, like Obama put fear into anybody, who was in Yemen and was driving with two other trucks anywhere near them.
And they also killed, by the way, I think it bears repeating, 2 weeks after they killed Anwar al-Awlaki, this American citizen, they killed his 16-year-old American citizen son. And to this day, no one from the Obama administration has ever explained why they killed that kid. They have never explained it to this day. And there are a handful, and it's only a handful of American politicians, and some of them are Republican, like Rand Paul, and some are Democrats, like Ron Wyden, who during Obama were actually speaking out against this. I don't think anyone spoke out in terms of the Senate as strongly as Rand Paul did about this. Remember, he held this marathon session where he was talking about the U.S. assassination program. But the fact that we didn't have many Democrats willing to stand up when it was their guy in office makes it much more difficult then to confront a bombastic, sort of continuer of these policies and taking it to the next level. He's doing it openly. It really is like doing what Duterte in the Philippines said. We're just going to kill drug dealers or even drug users. And they're now saying, well, this is going to be the American policy. So in that sense, it is different because it's being announced as like, we're in your face. We're going to be doing this now. And they're going to apply it beyond drug trafficking justification as well. I'm certain of that.